Hello, everybody, and welcome to another day of live at the Waterhole. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'll be the voice that you'll be hearing for the next 2 hours or so. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. This is a live and interactive safari show where we have a look at what's going on in game reserves and national parks all over Africa. So you can send me questions if you have any or comments. All you have to do is hashtag WildEarth at the end of your question if you're going to be using X or Twitter. Otherwise, you can chat away on the YouTube live chat. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the animals get up to today. But we're off to a good start because we're at Tau Game Lodge in Madikwe Game Reserve with the ever drying up pans. And as you can see, we'll pan the camera a little bit to the left. There's one elephant that's thoroughly enjoying itself and having a good old bum scratch. You know what it's like when you've got an itch that needs to be scratching, you'll do whatever it takes. I don't know if any of us maybe have performed this movement, but I've definitely rubbed my back up against the wall. A marula tree works quite nicely for the elephants, but of course an embankment like this makes for the perfect seat and to scratch that itch in those hard to reach places. There we go. I was just having a quick little look to see if I can see anyone that's jumped on. There's quite a few of you. Ants is here again. Hello, Ants. We've got Eddie PR and Darcy Miller. It's great to have you all on board. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody. I'm looking forward to your questions. Looks like most of the elephants have now moved off except this one that has completely covered itself in mud. And I like that the blacksmith lapwing, that small bird, is now going to investigate around the area. Maybe there were lots of insects that were around the elephant, and that's what those birds absolutely love to feed on. We've got a couple of zebras and, of course, the wildebeest. They're always around. And it's a nice, clear day. Only a couple of clouds in the sky. Oh, Canine Girl, you said it's your birthday today. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I hope you have the most wonderful day. What would you like to see today? Canine Girl, let's see if we can make it happen. Looks like this elephant cow is reprimanding this young bull on the left. I don't know if you noticed that, how the behavior changed completely. And reprimanding can happen in a number of different ways. It doesn't always mean that it needs to be physical. It can literally just be a particular kind of body language before a youngster. And what you typically find with elephants is that that's normally enough to sort of straighten them out. Now he's kind of just sort of standing there, maybe feeling a bit sorry for himself. Let's see if he follows. Oh, this looks like there's some nice fresh elephant dung there. I'm surprised that the blacksmith lapwing haven't flocked to it. It's going to definitely be attracting loads of insects. It's a tasty morsels to feed on. Not my cup of tea, but you know. Well, there's a few more of you who have jumped on. Jive Bunny, hello. We've got Rebecca J. We've got Soul Shatter. There we go. More and more of you are jumping on board, which is absolutely fantastic. off the wildebeest go. Not sure where those two are running off to, but perhaps we can have a little scan around and see what other animals are out and about. And that bird on the right is a black-winged stilt. It looked like there were a couple of them around, but they're also residents of this waterhole. There's another one. They're just having a rest. Nope, it's looking a little bit on the quiet side. Also keep an eye out for any crocodiles. We saw a couple of them yesterday. We've got the grey heron that's always here and the yellow-billed stork that's also been spending a bit of time around the space. I wouldn't mind watching some birds fishing and hopefully successfully catching some fish too. Diane from the UK also just jumped on board, and you said that you are looking forward to lots of action. Well, fingers crossed we get lots of action. I haven't had anything overly spectacular happen. Yesterday was a bit on the quiet side with some nice interactions. I did enjoy the vulture feeding at the Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. That was really interesting to see. Other than that, it was just the animals doing the usual animal things. Funny, you've said, where are those crocs hiding? It's just amazing how they don't need very much water at all to hide in. Oh, here comes another elephant. Looks like it's already had a mud bath. Might be that one that it looks like that same young bull that we were watching earlier. And then Charles, you've asked, if you're wondering if there are any birds that follow elephants around. Yes, there absolutely are. I was actually discussing it a little bit yesterday, and it would be really nice if we could see something like this happening. But one of the bird species that love to follow elephants around is a bird called a cattle egret. Oh, who's there? Is there a waterbuck? It's a waterbuck in the shade. So cattle egrets notoriously follow animals, but you have to think about it like this. When it's so arid, like where the elephants and where the wildebeest are, there's not going to be much insect life there. There's going to be some, but there's going to be plenty more in amongst this grass sort of wetland area that we're looking at now. So when you have big groups of elephants or even buffalo, or it doesn't really matter, moving through grassy areas, that's when you're going to typically see birds following mammals, where they've got a better chance of kicking something up or disturbing an insect, and they're making it fly or leap into the air, and then the birds will try and get it. So cattle egrets do it. Sometimes you'll see wattled starlings also following around big mammals. And oh, there's a crocodile. Sure, I mean, that was quite inconspicuous. I didn't expect to see it there just lying up on the grass. So there's the croc chive bunny, well, at least one of the very many that live in this waterhole, with a pair of Egyptian geese just behind it. And this crocodile is not just resting, just enjoying a bit of the sun. We've had so many overcast, sort of cooler days. I'm taking the moment now to really just enjoy enjoy the sun. Can't say the same here in the low veld. We've still got very much overcast days. It's saying there's some rain on its way, but I suppose we'll see. It doesn't look like very much. It might even disappear by the time it's supposed to arrive. So Tadiwa is directing today, and she's just popped a message saying the crocodiles always look a little dead. And it's true. Like, if you're watching for the first time now, you're probably thinking, why is that crocodile not moving? I haven't even seen it blink. So it absolutely doesn't look like it is alive. But for the most part, reptiles don't do that much moving around. It kind of depends. Like, for example, this crocodile, like we said, is just enjoying the sun. It's basking in the sun. It's warming up. They don't need to eat all the time, like the birds, for example, that constantly have to peck away and catch food, whereas the crocodiles can go a long period of time without meals. So then there's no need for them to use unnecessary calories, burn unnecessary energy. Well, it doesn't look like the birds are up to too much, except the heron has started fishing once again. But we'll come back here and do a bit of bird watching a little bit later as it warms up. We're going to head over to Olifants West Game Reserve and see what's happening at Naledi. There's a different visitor. We're looking at a laughing dove perched up on this dead tree, just sitting very quietly, not doing too much at all. No feather maintenance, just observing, maybe resting its legs and its wings. My goodness, and look how this waterhole is now looking putrid. Not much is going to really want to be drinking from that water. It doesn't look too appetizing, especially when maybe you're tall enough and you're able to drink from the little well. But you can see that it has overflowed at one point, or it could also be from the elephants that have been drinking around this little well, spilling water on the ground. I'd probably take my chances and rather sip up that stuff than dive into the green murky waters. I'm trying to see if I can even see any little terrapin heads moving around and amongst the algae, but I can't. There's a few more of you that are joining. We've got Justin Wright, who said, "Good day, fellow pond peepers." Yes, we are called that. Thank you for reminding me. It's been a while since we spoke about that. And then I'm also just going through the comments again. Jive Bunny, you actually mentioned that you've seen Ezelwini at this particular waterhole before. So if you don't know who Ezelwini is a large tusker, an elephant, that WildEarth has seen on a number of different occasions. Normally, we would see him roaming around on pridelands quite a bit. He's a beautiful, spectacular individual. And Olifants West Game Reserve is really just a stone throw away to where pridelands actually is, that whole area. But remember, elephants can travel huge distances. There's the terrapins on the right. They're sunbathing. They're not in the green algae. You see them. They're just on the little mud embankment. Okay, maybe we'll get to the terrapins a bit later, but that tree's most certainly been broken down by the elephants. Looks like they've had a big old feast. Might have found that one individual that was big enough, broke it, and then everybody else just came and fed kind of around the tree. Catherine, you're wondering if I've ever seen a crocodile hunting on land. Sure. I can't say that I have. I've seen crocodiles come out of the water to feed on carcasses before, but I can't say that I've ever seen one hunting on land. I mean, they're surprisingly quick. I mean, when you look at the way that they've been put together, you wouldn't think that they're quick, but once they raise their bodies off the ground, those legs of theirs can move quite fast. They would not be able to be able to run and catch an antelope, for an example. But I suppose when crocodiles are also just basking on the banks, if something comes up to it, maybe it might try and swing its head and grab it, but it's just not something that I've typically seen before. But it would not surprise me if a crocodile were to hunt on land. But like I said, I think it would have to be one of those things where an animal kind of just walked up to the crocodile, maybe curious, investigated, got into the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, looking very quiet here at Naledi. Let's try our luck just down the road at Rosie's Pan. Ah, much better. Elephants. Just two of them. Going to have a drink. Also, the water is looking a bit on the green side. You can see how the elephants are stirring at the surface of the water with their trunks before filling them up and sort of funneling the water back into their mouths. Sandy Franklin, you've said that you've never seen so many birds before. I'm wondering if you're talking about Tau Lodge, because obviously right now we're not looking at very many birds at all. And it does have a surprising amount of birds. In terms of how many birds occur in that area, I'm not entirely sure, but it will probably be over 300 if you start to include the summer migrants as well, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but quite a few. But the chances of seeing all of them are pretty slim. Okay, looks like these two bulls are also doing a bit of bonding. Nothing too serious, all just playful, rubbing their heads together. Look at him squirting water at his friend. Asking for trouble. And it's quite interesting when you see them squirting the water out like that, because you can clearly see that there are two nostrils, that funnel straight up that trunk as it sprays them out on either side. It's always great to look down onto an elephant, but not spending too much time below the camera. Just having a feel of all these rocks and then moving off. Also not bothering covering themselves with too much water today. It's not particularly hot, it's actually quite cool, which is enjoyable. I'm sure the elephants are loving that. Stella, you're wondering if I've ever seen injuries on elephants that are not broken tusks? Absolutely. We see plenty of injuries. We're just having a quick look at all the birds, so I'll get to that at the moment. Goodness gracious, so it looks like the entire population of blue waxbills in Olifants West Game Reserve coming down to have a drink. I didn't see too many other birds there. But sometimes what we see, Stella, is we see torn ears. That's quite common. We see tails that are missing. We see the tips of their trunks that can quite often can also get damaged. A lot of the time it's from snaring though. And then you'll see abscesses and all sorts of things. So yeah, so elephants are also prone to various injuries. But they've got such thick skin, like a small branch, as they push through the vegetation, is really not going to cause them any discomfort or leave any marks at all behind. But there's a long list of injuries that they can, of course, get. Lots and lots of blue waxbills. They are frequent visitors. It's a pity we haven't got any of the little firefinches. It's always nice to identify them. They can be a bit tricky, as they just have very subtle differences between the various species. And then, Lilo, you've asked, are there things that smaller reserves do to attract vegetation? I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I don't know how they would attract the vegetation. They might bring some plants in and reintroduce indigenous plant species, but other than that, not really. I mean, there's ways that things that they can do to attract, other animals, like planting certain plants to attract various arthropods and that type of thing. But in terms of attracting vegetation, I don't know if I maybe understand the question correctly. Perhaps you can rephrase it for me. I see the birds are having a good time though, bobbing in and out of the water. There's quite a few of those waxbills. Off they go. Oh, there's a fork-tailed drongo that just flew over the top of them. Just more and more waxbills keep coming on down. Let's see, somebody else is bound to come and join this party. Look, there's more. Goodness, how many are there? Let's have a closer look at these birds, because maybe there's a couple of other birds that will pop in here, but as you can see when we zoomed out a little bit, everything kind of just looks really bland and, I don't know, grey from my side. But all still blue waxbills. Right now I have more variety of birds in my garden than we do. I don't know why all the blue waxbills are just hogging this area. And where are all the other little birds? Oh, there's something at the back behind the rock. You can see it has looks like it's got a red beak. Maybe it's a red-billed quelea, or is it a firefinch? I can't really see. No. Oh, there it is. It's just up. It's sitting up on the right. There we go. Oh, a green-winged patilia. That's nice. And a southern grey-headed sparrow. There's the two of them that have come to join. It's really nice to see the green-winged patilia. We don't get to see them all the time. They're quite a shy bird. You always hear them and you'll see them bobbing around amongst the vegetation. But to actually get them sitting down and being still is something else. So that's quite nice. A quick glimpse of one of those. And then the starlings have also joined. Hello, starlings. Aha, Lilo. Sorry, I think there you just mentioned here that you said you meant to say that is there any vegetation that could attract more birds? Yes, absolutely. That one is an easier question to answer. Much better. Yes, absolutely. So it depends on what you're trying to attract, though, because obviously each species of bird will eat something slightly different. So if you want to attract some small pretty birds that like to feed on flowers, nectar, pollen, that type of thing, then you're going to need to bring in some plants that are flowering. So for example, something like honeysuckle is a really awesome plant to have. It's got lovely sweet nectar, so you start to see lots of sunbirds. I mean, all the birds love to feed on the honeysuckle itself. You've seen orioles, you've seen the starlings, that type of thing. Aloes. And then what's also really nice is that you have plants that either flower or fruit at different times of the year. So things like aloes, for an example, or impala lilies, they all flower during the winter months. So that's nice to have around. You get this burst of color when everything else is looking a bit miserable and brown and not so lush. And then of course you can also plant fruit trees. So things like obviously you want to keep to whatever plants are indigenous to your area, because remember, if you start planting things like apple trees and strawberry plants and all that type of thing, those seeds will then be dispersed, and they, for example, in the environment that we're looking at right now, they don't occur. So planting things like jackleberries or quarry trees, the Euclea species, the list is really endless. Marulas, you kind of name it. Buffalo thorns obviously get berries that birds love to feed on. So there's lots of different things that you can plant. And then obviously with that normally comes a host of insects too, which is good because they are quite often the main pollinating species of various plants. We've also got a emerald spotted wood dove that has joined the party. You can see there's so many birds in the tree line, plenty of them. And then Martin, you've asked, are all those little birds in a specific corner for minerals? No, it's just it seems to be the bird's favorite spot. There's like a little stick that they'll sit on. They sit on the rock. It's also quite close to the tree line, so it means that if they need to escape, they can fly back and get into some shelter. The birds don't like to be out in the open, especially when you're drinking. You're quite vulnerable. So even on the other side of this waterhole itself, oh look, mouse birds. Hello. It's like a red-faced mouse bird. A red-faced mouse bird, or is it a speckled mouse bird? Sorry, I'm trying to see. Some of you may know that my feed that I look at pixelated, which makes it difficult to sometimes see obvious colorations. They might be easier for you to see, but you do get both species of mouse birds in this area. Look like a red-faced mouse bird. Oh, they always fly away so quickly just as we find focus, but I'm sure we'll get another view of this bunting and a little bird. Rather striking little creatures. Can you turn and face us so I can see if you're a golden-breasted bunting or a cinnamon-breasted bunting? Sandy, you're very kind. You said it's amazing that I know all of these animals. I don't know all of them though. There's plenty that I don't know and that I haven't actually seen before. But I suppose it's part of my career. Hey, it'd be a bit strange if I didn't know what was going on, or a little bit of what was going on. And then you're also wondering how Tucker is. Tucker is sleeping. We did a short walk before the show because it's nice and cool, the overcast. So we went for a quick sniffing walk, and now he's sulking and sleeping. That's just what he does. Oh no, look! What's in the water? Is it a grasshopper? On the surface, it looks like it. You can just kind of see the legs. Like I can see its head and the antenna. I'm not really moving around much, and not an uncommon thing to see. There we go. In the water like that. Unfortunately, these poor grasshoppers are plagued with a nematode, a horsehair worms. Well, let's see if you're going to make it out, or something's going to gobble you up. It'd be great if a terrapin came past now and snatched it up. But anyways, what these horsehair worms do is, in order basically to complete the life cycle, which most of it is spent within the digestive tract of a grasshopper. If they then will infiltrate their very basic brain, they've got nerve ganglia, not quite like a developed brain like us, and it controls them. And it basically tells them to jump into water, and then those worms will actually leave via the back end, and then they'll complete their life cycle that way. And I was actually sent a picture not too long ago of a grasshopper that had a horsehair worm coming out of it, which was insane because they are long, really long thread-like creatures. Not very nice. And so that's what it's doing in the water. Come on, but now we need to wait to see if something's going to eat it. That might be all the action we get today. And then Jason Love, you've asked, what are some worms that could be in this murky water, and can they harm humans? There will be a variety of creatures, probably living within the mud itself. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, for example, we as humans, obviously, we can contract all sorts of parasites in the forms of worms. One that I'm normally cautious about, but I've also had it so many times, it's not a worm, it's actually a microscopic snail. And I have spoken about this a little bit before, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. That can be a bit of a problem. So it's called schistosomiasis or bilharzia. And basically this little microscopic snail will burrow into the skin of people. We don't even know that it's there. And it can actually live within you for years and years and years without you even knowing that there's something wrong. And you normally feel quite fatigued. You sometimes get a rash over your body. It looks a little bit like ringworm. I'm sure most of you have seen what ringworm looks like. And you just get this feeling of I can't tell you, it's like extreme exhaustion. Sometimes they call it snail fever. And it can be life-threatening in years and years and years at a time, because obviously they just start to multiply and they can form cysts at the base of your brain. It can get into your liver. But again, I've had bilharzia a number of different times. It's a fairly simple treatment, and Yeah, but it's normally from dirty, stagnant water, and a lot of the time you find the Bilharzia parasite within human feces. So try and avoid stagnant water wherever you can. Okay, let's go back to Tao, and maybe the stork or the heron will catch us a fish. Lots more elephants in the distance. I think the Tao camera might be frozen at the moment though, so we're probably going to leave it and then we'll try and come back again. Sorry about that, everybody. We'll come back at some point. It's like Rosie's pan wants us to just stick with the birds today. That's fine. I'm also just keeping an eye out as we've got this view. You can see there's such a big prominent game path that comes up towards this waterhole. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a leopard or lion or something just lying in the shade of the tree? It doesn't look like there's anything just yet. Oh, I can't believe that fork-tailed tronga just flew away. I know it was sitting there for a little while. But as you know, we have got ads and all those types of things. But that was quite nice. I'm wishing that it does come back and sit on the log. But now we'll just wait patiently for something else to come around. I think what we'll do is, seeing as though the bush is a little bit on the quiet side at the moment, as you know, we've also got a couple of clips that have happened in the past. So we might as well have a little look at them. And the one that I'd like to go and have a look at first is a kingfisher at King's Camp. Oh, there we go. So just a reminder, this is not live, but what a beautiful sight of a giant kingfisher. One that we don't always get to see. Perfect at eye level. And it's obviously just plunged into the water, probably trying to catch a fish, but now it needs to dry its feathers out. And while it does that, it is just doing a bit of feather maintenance. You can see how it uses that long, slender beak and rubs it all the way through its feathers, just making sure those little barbules are aligned nicely. It basically zips the feathers back up again. Lots of shaking, ruffling of the feathers. And it's very difficult to judge how big this bird is, but this is the largest of the kingfisher species. They're enormous. And always a firm favorite of people who get to see them. I didn't think that they would particularly like this pool of water. It's not very big, but I suppose with it being so dry at the moment, animals can't be picky. But now we're back live at our game lodge. Maybe we'll be lucky enough at some point to get a kingfisher live too. What was that? That must have been a crocodile that just dived into... What's going on the right-hand side? That crocodile's eating something. You can just see it sticking its head up, chomping away. I'm not sure what it caught. I just saw a big splash. And you can see even the grey heron is looking off to the right, watching the commotion. So it's still thrashing around. I don't know if it's anything particularly big. It also doesn't help that we've got all the grass cover. But we know the crocodiles love to catch fish. They will catch birds. I don't know if it was a bird that it caught. I would imagine there'd be plenty of, of commotion from the birds, all squawking and, you know. It could have been something that was already dead, that maybe this crocodile's had for a little while. So all we can do right now is really just speculate until we get some concrete evidence. That's an elephant that you can hear in the distance. Now the croc is now moving off. Well, it looks like quite a large crocodile. Not a very big meal that it consumed. So maybe it was a fish that it just chucked back. Now it's just moving off to a new spot. I don't know if you noticed though, as soon as there was some splashing, there were a few other smaller crocs that were off to the left that looked like they were going to move in this direction. So they would have been able to have picked up those vibrations in the water from quite a distance away. And there really is no limit to what a crocodile will eat. Jason, love, you've said, what are nifty things crocodiles do to survive the drought? So, reptiles are really remarkable, and again, we were chatting a little bit about this yesterday, so I'm going to repeat myself a bit. But the fact that they have the ability to really slow their metabolisms down and their heart rates helps a huge amount. So, they are not then going to be using very much energy, burning calories. They'll sit quite still. Some will even encase themselves in mud and can stay like that for long periods of time. I'm sure you've all seen pictures, especially of alligators in areas where the water will literally freeze over, and all you can see is just their snouts sticking up above the surface so that they can still breathe. So those adaptations on their own will keep them going for a long time. But crocodiles obviously have legs, they can move. So if there is the chance that they can remove themselves from a situation before it gets too arid, then they're going to do that. They'll just move and try and find another water source. But if that's not the case, if it's, they aren't able to do that, then they might be reluctant to just stay in one spot. There's also in places in Botswana, and I'm sure it happens elsewhere, again, when it gets so cold during the winter months, not that the water necessarily freezes over, that crocodiles will go into these sort of caves, these underwater caves, and just lie there, go to sleep. So not quite hibernation like bears and some other animals do. We typically refer to it as rumination. So once the temperatures warm up enough, even if it's just over a couple of days, they could potentially come out, maybe do a bit of feeding or come out and sun themselves. And then when the temperature decreases again, go back into a small dwelling of sorts. But they're remarkable. Crocodiles can just survive all sorts of extreme conditions. I mean, there's even pictures, in the Sahara Desert of small populations of crocodiles, which is, it's insane. It's just unbelievable. Where's that crocodile? See, what's there? What is in the water? I literally have my eyes glued to my laptop screen now. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. With the water drying up like this, though, it's going to be easier for lots of different animals to catch fish. They're going to start getting stuck in the pools unless they're able to move. Let's see if the heron is going to be wary and move out of the crocodile's way. Yeah, you can see. Just doing a bit of a shimmy shuffle. Not trusting of the croc today. And then, of course, you can see the reflection of the elephant that's moving around. But I think let's follow this croc. Let's see what it gets up to. Elizabeth, I see you said that that is gross water for the animals. I think animals have a different definition of gross. Yes, to you and I, that looks really unpleasant, and I don't want anything to do with it at all. But they don't mind it so much. I mean, the murky water for the crocodiles really works in its favor. Look at this other crocodile off here on the left. I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen now. There must be fish around here. You can see that even the yellow-billed stork is getting in on the action. So perhaps there's some barbel or catfish around here. So they're used to it. They build up immunities, and they're capable of, drinking putrid, well, what we would deem putrid water. But they're quite happy with it. It's nice that the crocodiles are active today. You see the heron is still giving that croc a wide berth though. So even though we can't really see what's going on below the surface of the water, with these birds that catch fish, predominantly the heron, the yellow-billed stork, we know that there are fish here. Otherwise, if there wasn't anything substantial for these birds to feed on, they too would move and look for alternative feeding grounds. But now that this yellow-billed stork is kind of focusing around the edges of the grass, perhaps it's not looking for fish, but maybe something like a frog. Here we go. So even crocodiles have different hunting strategies. Obviously, when they are hunting prey that lives above the surface, staying hidden is the best way to go to surprise attack a potential prey species. But when you're in the water like this and you are hunting things like fish, you're going to have to use slightly different tactics. And Kim, you've said it's funny to see these crocodiles from this angle. You always thought that they float, but you said that they're moving their legs. Yeah, this water's quite shallow, so they'll be using the combination of their feet to pull themselves, but then also they've got those big, powerful tails, and that alone is enough to propel them forward. And then Canine Girl, you've said, are crocodiles a lot like cheetahs in the sense that they have short bursts of speed? Well, with running, yes, their running speed on land is going to be very limited, and I don't think that they'll be able to keep it up for very long. But when they're in the water, it's a completely different story. They're streamlined creatures, and then like I just mentioned, they've got a big, powerful tail. So they're able to propel themselves quite quickly. And I think you'd be quite surprised at the stamina of a crocodile too. I'm just trying to figure out what it's doing though. Amazing how it's kind of like reversing into these little crevices. And I can't tell which is the front end from the back. And out it goes again. I've absolutely no idea what this crocodile is doing. And sometimes in moments like this, it's just interesting just to sit and watch and see what happens. It's not very often that you get to watch crocodiles reversing. There you go, now it's turning around. And now it's gone. Unbelievable. Oh, there we go, it's just emerging again. What on earth are you doing? And Sandra, you've asked, would a crocodile take a heron? Yes, absolutely. Crocodiles do eat birds. It's not something that we see them doing all the time. But on one of the AfriCam shows, had a great sighting actually at Victoria Falls Safari Lodge of a crocodile eating a vulture. So they will take them when there's the opportunity, but they also interact around one another peacefully. Can never trust a croc though. You really don't know what their intentions are. Did you just go in there to add some vegetation to your body? I was reversing back out again. And off it goes again. See, it's just interesting because it's not crocodile breeding season at the moment. That's come and gone. So you're not going to find crocodiles competing for mates or females looking for nesting sites. They're going to have to wait. That normally starts around October, November. So we've still got a few months to go. I'd be very nervous if I was that heron. But obviously, I mean, this heron, I'm sure it's the same individual that we just see all the time, you know, at Tower Lodge. It's had many years of experience with crocodiles. And so for the most part, they live in harmony. I don't know, this crocodile's just, they're so suspicious. And look at the yellow-billed stork now, also an interesting hunting technique. Rather than walking and trying to flush out fish or frogs, it's just waiting patiently with its beak wide open and with those sensory nerves that it has in its bill. If anything swims between the two parts of its beak, it will clamp it down shut. And this will work well with the crocodile that's moving around. It could be disturbing all sorts of things, and they might flee in the direction of the stork if it stands still enough. And if there are any young crocodiles in this water, they need to be careful, because something like the grey heron or even this yellow-billed stork, they'd quite happily snap up a young crocodile. Now that this great egret has moved on in, it's just really starting to point more and more signs that this crocodile is just hunting, trying to flush anything out of the water, and the birds are taking full advantage of it too. Here comes an unsuspecting wildebeest, Have you had a drink? Are you going to come past and maybe have a drink? Nope. Walking in the opposite direction. And then, Kim, you've said it's so cool that the birds are just following the crocodiles. You said they're like the hyenas of the water. Love that. Yeah, it's very clever of them. I mean, this crocodile's not intentionally trying to flush out prey for the birds, but the birds are taking advantage of a situation. So it's just clever how, you know, unintentionally they're working with one another. I mean, the same thing goes for the birds. The birds might be moving around and could potentially flush a big fish towards a croc, and the croc could end up snapping it up. The crocodile's getting awfully close to the heron now. No, the heron's like, absolutely not. You look like you're up to no good. There we go, crocodile snapping at something once again. I don't think catching anything though. And it's clever of the crocodiles to kind of push the fish in the direction of the embankments into these little there's quite a few crocodiles now. Into these little like depressions where they won't be able to escape. It could be a bit of conflict now between the two crocs. And there goes a hammerkop. Just flew across, that big brown bird. That crocodile just stirring the water with its tail? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. This is actually a really good view. So crocodile, if you could catch something right now, that would be fantastic so that we could see it all happen. I always find it difficult though to understand crocodiles' behavior because so much of it is, you know, we can't see because it's below the surface of the water. So moments like this with these cameras where we are able to kind of just follow them as they go about their day and kind of learn together is interesting. And this is where reading about crocodile and crocodile behavior kind of comes in handy. And hopefully you can see something that you've read about and put two and two together. You can see the Egyptian goose gosling has grown up quite a bit now. Hasn't really, or there's the second one too. Haven't got their adult coloration, but they're starting to look more and more like the adults. They've still got a bit of growing to do though. Yeah, it's perfect habitat for these Egyptian geese, seen as though they predominantly eat grasses. There's no shortage of that in this area. You would think that we'd see more and more Egyptian geese. And then we've got the common moorhens, also with their tails cocked, looking for any insects. And they're sort of drying up water. Oh, there's another one running over, arching its back. That's quite funny. What are you doing? If you're trying to be threatening. Doesn't it remind you of the blacksmith lapwings when they do that? They're not happy with this individual. It's potentially an intruder. You don't belong here. Will they be able to put the differences beside themselves? Let's see. A little bit of sidestepping going on. It's interesting. I haven't actually ever seen common moorhens sort of exhibit any territorial behavior. So all these birds are going to be loving the fact that the water is drying up. There's just that much more feeding grounds for them now. Normally we don't see these birds out in the open. They're quite shy. So when this was quite full, it was always difficult to spot them. Oh, something's upset the elephants. I might just be chasing a zebra or a wildebeest or something along those lines. And you can also see, though, with the common moorhens, they've got much larger feet than a lot of the aquatic birds. They kind of resemble the feet of an African jacana, and that'll definitely help walk along the surface of the mud so that they don't sink into it. And then, Kim, you're wondering if a bird party works like a coalition or are they temporary? So if you're wondering what Kim is talking about, a bird party is typically a group of birds that come together to feed. So yes, theoretically what we're looking at right now, especially the interaction between the spoonbill and the stork, you could consider this to be a bird party as well. So there's no permanent bonding, so it is temporary. it just makes sense, especially for a lot of the smaller birds. They will come together. Safety in numbers is the big thing. But because they all feed at various levels, so some might feed on the ground, some might feed in the lower levels of the branches, and the others might feed right at the tops of the trees. You can imagine if you're an insect eater, for example, there's going to be a lot of creatures jumping and flying around. So as one bird disturbs something, another bird could end up making a meal of whatever creature was disturbed. So yeah, so it is really quite interesting. But here in this particular spot, they're going to be utilizing the crocodiles as they move around, as we've discussed, or when there are more than one bird, they might just all walk together hoping to catch something. There must be an abundance of fish here. It's just really interesting to see now that the crocodiles are all coming together. Of course, they're going to be competing for space soon. If it keeps drying out, it is going to keep drying out. And the bigger crocodiles are eventually just going to push the smaller ones out, and they're going to have to go off and find somewhere else to live. But some of the crocodiles could have already moved on. There doesn't seem to be any aggression between any of the crocs. They're kind of just, simply interacting around one another. Was that a fish that was on that crocodile's back? Did you see that? Looked like it flopped onto the top of the croc and then made its way out again. Lucky fish. This is crazy. I don't think I would ever be brave enough to be this close to crocodiles, even if I was a bird. I'm just quite curious to see what's going to happen with this other crocodile moving in. So where we could see a little bit of like animosity between the individual crocodiles is if one does encroach too closely on a specific feeding ground. Oh, look at the spoonbill go. It's going wild. Looks like it's catching all sorts of things. Oh, there we go. And I don't know if you saw that, but the yellow-billed stork did catch something. I couldn't see if it was a fish or a little frog, but it was quite small, so it swallowed it all in one go and very quickly. The smaller fish have got a better chance of surviving here. Lots of little hidey places rather than if you're a much larger fish. No, we're quite lucky today. You don't often see crocodiles moving around this much. We've been so patient. Something's going to have to happen. Well, I'm really hoping that it does. So as the crocodiles slowly move through the water, They're able to pick up also on any little of vibrations, this most minute thing, but also be able to pick up any chemical scents that are in the water too. Off it goes though with its head under the water. Okay, I think we're going to take this moment now while the crocs seem to have settled down to watch another one of the clips, and this one is of a mongoose. Okay, so we are at Tembe Elephant Park in South Africa. We've got impala, and then there is a mongoose that's at the back, and it's been suggested that this is a white-tailed mongoose, a melanistic morph though. I always find it tricky to tell the difference between a melanistic white-tailed mongoose and a Meller's mongoose, but I'm just looking at the sheer size of this mongoose in comparison to the impala, and the Meller's mongoose is nowhere near as big. The white-tailed mongoose is the largest species of mongoose that we see. Off it goes. And it's not the first time that we've seen a melanistic mongoose here at Tembe Elephant Park. So it's more than likely not the same individual. And off it kind of goes. Nice. Very cool to see. Obviously nothing dramatic has happened now that we're back live at Tower Lodge. Wow, everything's really quietening down now. And just the common moorheads sneaking through. Oh, there's some ellies. All changing their drinking spots to that corner. Let's see if they come around and mud wallow in their favorite section. At least we've got them to keep us entertained now. Here we go. Zebra's not worrying about entering the water, going straight on in. And I wonder why, and it's not to say that there isn't, but if I were a crocodile, this is what crocodiles are known for and why. I mean, they're dangerous for a number of different reasons, but they sit and watch prey. They learn behaviors. So, for example, if they notice that animals are drinking from a particular spot over and over, they'll normally go in and lie and wait in places like that. So this is a very popular drinking point here. I can't believe one of these big crocs isn't just lying down there waiting for the perfect opportunity. And now the elephant's crossing all the mud. It looks like it's hardened up quite a bit. This little elephant's not sinking in too deep. Yesterday we were talking about the concerns of drying up water holes and how deadly this mud can actually be, and in fact can cause almost like a death trap. Oh, and plop goes the little elephant. That's the easiest way to cover yourself in mud when you haven't got all of the control of your trunk just yet. Now that elephant cow just moving away. It's chasing another elephant. Poor zebra thought it had done something wrong. Let's see, you can see that common moorhen is kind of making its way towards where the elephants are. Could be another example of how the elephants will be disturbing all sorts of creatures, and they'll come out and try and catch the insects. You can see the blacksmith lapwings are also moving in closer, just behind the elephants. And Catherine, you've commented and said that you enjoyed the birding today. Yeah, it was really nice to watch them. Sadly, well, actually the mousebird, the red-faced mousebird was a new one for me at Rosie's Pan. I haven't seen them there before. We know that they occur, of course, and mousebirds are fairly common in the Lowveld. And the green-winged petilia was also a good one. I know personally that Catherine had a lot of trouble trying to photograph a green-winged petilia that gave her hassles while we were in Botswana, which was quite entertaining. They're such difficult birds to photograph. I don't think I've ever successfully photographed one. Always behind branches. Every time you reach for your camera, they fly away. Let's stick with this herd of elephants as they walk along the edge of the water. These two youngsters might put on a bit of a show for us. Looks like they're about to start rough and tumbling. Oh, careful little one, don't go venturing out there on your own. Okay, so this is where all the crocodiles were. Let's see if the elephants are going to disturb any of them, or maybe they've already moved off. Oh, isn't this just such a lovely moment? After watching the elephants have a drink, splash themselves with mud, and now having a dust bath right in front of us. And of course that little elephant being so sweet, just rolling around on the ground, having the best time. Okay, we're watching another one of the non-live clips. This is an unstriped ground squirrel and a yellow baboon that you can see just sitting at Aldonyo Waterhole. I have seen the unstriped ground squirrels here before, and normally it's just kind of a brief sighting. But what it's doing at the moment, it's standing up on, I don't know what that is, a log or something, and kind of just looking around. Well, not really even looking around, very much focused in one direction. And we see lots of different animals doing this, kind of climbing to a bit of a vantage point and then standing up nice and tall. But something special to see, not one of the usual mammals that we see at this waterhole. There we go, just nibbling on some of that nice vegetation. And off it goes. Very cool. Very nice to see. Now the herd is on the move. Sure, that's quite a big cow that's just up and to the left. She looks very much pregnant because she's bulging on either side and her belly looks like it's dropped quite a bit. Got big swollen mammary glands. That might be her calf at the back. But she's definitely pregnant. Not in a hurry today, really just taking their time, heading for the hills. It's quite a beautiful scene. The big clouds are now starting to develop. Maybe it means some rain for Madikwe a little bit later. I don't know what the temperature is there today, but hopefully it's just getting warmer and warmer and we'll get some reprieve. But we can only hope. It's been quite funny because in Hoedspruit we've had a little bit of rain and it seems to be falling at night. Not very much, but just little bits every now and then. And Kim, you said the elephants walking away is a perfect way to end the show. Absolutely, because we don't have very much time left. It's kind of like everybody's saying goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. And we're gonna kind of head off. Nice little group of elephants, but there were still some bulls that were lingering around the water's edge. I doubt that they're going to rush off anywhere either. But what a great afternoon it has been. Nice to see the crocodiles moving around so much for a change. It's always good when we've got a bit of variety. But I hope that you enjoyed the show. And as you know, I will be hosting live at the Waterhole again tomorrow and all the way until Friday. So tell your friends and family. And well, have a great afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow.